So we will get started now. Thank you for everyone that engaged in the opening and setup of our audio and visuals. This was our shortcut to try to introduce everybody and let you know that there's other folks in the room, that you're not just on a website watching a video that you can watch anytime. You're really with everybody. We will be monitoring. Please try to mute yourself if you're switching over. I'm not sure what that was. I'm so sorry. I'm going to just continue. Please see or know before you go participant guide for more logistics information. We can help you out with anything along the way, but we will be using the poll, chat, reactions, and video and unmute button throughout the half day. So please get yourself familiar with the various options that Zoom can provide. For those of you that don't know me, I am Kerry Worthington, and I am one of the facilitators for today's meeting. I would like to welcome you to the National Council on Electricity Policy annual meeting, and I would like to introduce President Paul Kjellander to open the meeting. For those of you that don't know President Kjellander, he has about 15 years of experience at the Commission, and he was formerly the director at the Idaho Office of Energy Resources. He has 3 president titles, president of the Commission, and he was recently elected as the National Association for Regulatory Utility Commissioners president, and he's our NCEP president. President Kjellander, are you there? And Dominic, can you please advance the slides?
Thank you, Kerry. And welcome to day 2 of the 2020 National Council for Electricity Policy annual meeting. As was mentioned, I'm Paul Kjellander from the Idaho Public Utilities Commission with far too many titles that say president. Nobody ever plays hail to the chief when I walk into the room, so those president titles aren't that lofty. It's my pleasure to be chairing this multi-day event on evolving compensation and market mechanisms. And I want to thank all of you for joining us for day 2. And also the Executive Committee of NCEP, especially thanks to the United States Department of Energy, Office of Electricity, for its ongoing support and financial resources. We could not do this without their assistance, and it's greatly appreciated. Now, again, if this is your first time joining the National Council for Electricity Policy, the Know Before You Go document that you have includes a snapshot about NCEP. Now, this meeting builds upon the Council's multi-year theme on transmission and distribution intersections. Since 2018, we've documented examples and projects and shed some light on the known unknowns, on shifts in planning, operating, and conducting markets and compensation in light of increasing installation of distributed energy resources. And today we will continue that discussion. But right now, what I'm going to do is turn it back over to Kerry, who's going to share some highlights from yesterday.
Hi, great, thanks. Chris Villarreal is also here with me. I will just introduce our team with us. We have Danielle Sass Byrnett is with us. She is my director at NARUC, and we are, she's multi-talented and multitasking, and she will be helping out with anyone who has any tech issues, and she will also be helping out with fielding any questions for the moderators. So she will be keeping an eye on the chat. Chris Villarreal is also here with us. He's helping keeping everything flowing and everything on topic as well. And special thanks to Dominic Liberator, who's helping out with logistics today. And I would also like to thank the NCEP Executive Committee for your guidance throughout to build this agenda. So thank you all for contributing in the poll. I'm going to end it and show the results. Most of you attended yesterday, so thank you for returning. And it seems like most people learned something, which is great. And we have some repeat participants, and we really appreciate your dedication to all 3 days. Tomorrow's workshop will be on balancing grid alternatives and a deep dive into the National Standard Practice Manual on for DERs, which Julie Michaels introduced to us yesterday. And just so again, we encourage everyone to participate by video. We'd like to read the audience. If you have a question, please submit it into the chat. At this time, we are going to check in with our participants, especially those who participated in the poll. We're going to go to Chris to do a recap of day one, and then I will just glance at some of those resources and examples that we pulled together yesterday and see if there's anything else that might have crossed your screen over the past 12 hours or so. And please keep in mind that these will be put into the Transmission Distribution System resource catalog that's on the NCEP website that we've been updating for about a year now, that we adopted from the compendium of resources that began in 2018. So at this time, I'm going to turn it to Chris, and then I will pull up the discussion slides from yesterday. So Chris.
Thank you, Kerry. Good morning, good afternoon. I'm just going to give you a couple of the highlights that I took away from yesterday's session. We started the day with David Cathan and Karen Hertzfeld from FERC talking about the FERC Order 2222, which is directive to organized markets, the RTOs and ISOs, to identify tariffs, to work to develop tariffs to lower barriers to entry for aggregated distributed energy resources. And that really set the stage for the rest of the conversation, because the three sort of high-level topics that that I think came out from yesterday is that changes are occurring across the system, both in relation to customer demand profiles, the growth of distributed energy resources, the availability of technology, and the awareness of consumers. And this change is occurring faster in some places than in others, but nevertheless, the change is occurring and will come to all the corners of the country, which leads to the second point, which is the need for better planning, be it distribution or IRPs or just integrated resource planning as a whole. So we heard from our second session with Paul DiMartini and Ann Hoskins talk about the need to develop distribution system operators and what their roles and responsibilities are in relation to supporting this change and the need for better planning, as well as how then to integrate the DSO functions and where are those interfaces with the transmission system operator or the RTOs. Planning is also needed because of the growth of distributed energy resources and how better to account for the adoption rates of DER occurring across the country. And then additionally in that, the need for better compensation and valuation models to take into account the time and location and the types of DER that's showing up so that they can be compensated for the value they're providing. And then the last high-level topic relates to the role of utility and the future of the utility business model. We heard a couple of examples of that related in our discussion around the benefit cost analysis. We had Commissioner Abigail Anthony from the Rhode Island PUC talk about whether or not it's the appropriate role for the utility to sell pancakes in the middle of the night compared to their more traditional role of providing electricity. And understanding how the role of the utility and the utility business model is going to evolve in the face of the growth of new technologies and the availability of these technologies to the consumer. So where is the appropriate role for the utility monopoly to sit? How do you understand or identify the potential value of enabling market structures versus just the provision of the poles and wires? And I think those are my high-level thoughts of the day, and I thought that it provided a great introduction for what we're going to talk about for the rest of this day. And so I'll turn it back over to Kerry for additional thoughts.
Thanks, Chris. That was a great recap. And we had great speakers, and we really thank them for their time. We really set them up and made sure that they were prepared, and we really appreciated their time to get ready for everything. So I'm going to keep going. You'll see this repeated at the end of the day, but we are trying to restore a community here. So we are asking for active participation, and we're also asking that during these discussion sessions, it's okay to share who was there and what was said, but not who said what. So please, if anyone shares any works in progress, please keep that in your own confidence. And because we're in the virtual world, please do not screenshot any participant without their permission. And that's for that particularly goes for this mini discussion here, then the end of the day discussion. So I will just keep going. As I mentioned, the resources that we pulled yesterday will go into the T&D resource catalog, which is located on the NCEP website. We're capturing resources. I'm sorry if you were able to see if something was odd about my screen, but it captures resources where attendees can find useful information. We capture a lot of the lab resources here and a lot of research reports. Any examples, these are specific projects or orders or things that have already been done that we can derive lessons learned or other insights from. And then we also capture questions, which are lingering questions about this topic of the T&D evolution. So a lot of this has been pulled into other agendas outside of the NCEP community, as well as a lot of the work that NARUC and our joint projects with NASIO and other projects throughout the National Association, State Agency Association world. So we really appreciate all of your insights, and it will reach everybody in our network if you do send us some of these questions. So that's really the purpose, is for people to have a one-stop shop to see where we are, get a pulse of where people are in the industry, and derive some lessons learned and places to begin as they embark on understanding some of these changes. So thank you for everybody that has contributed to this so far. We have many resources there. Okay, so these look like my slides for later today. All right, so here we go. Here are the resources and examples that we collected yesterday. I'm sorry, we're running out of time now. This introduction took a little bit longer than I thought, but if there's any, we'll just take a moment to see if there's any other contributions from the audience for any resources or examples, or any other questions that may have come out. Okay, I will just skim a few of these. So yesterday we had somebody submit the system operator for Ontario. They have a report on transmission distribution interoperability. Their Sunrun shared a Oakland Clean Energy Initiative example. Minnesota has a plethora of resources on incorporating DERs. A lot of that is included in the T&D resource. We have the National Standard of Practice Manual, of course. Lynn Kiesling has written on this topic at length. Some questions that came in more about equity, anticipating any transmission congestion issues. There's a lot of questions about accountability, and let me get one more here. Measuring, should the role of utilities be vis-a-vis DER providers when also, so essentially will utilities be DER providers and DSO managers? So those are just some of the questions and examples that were said yesterday. We will get back to this list at 4 o'clock, but yes, throughout the program, please continue to submit any thoughts, resources, examples, or questions you might have. Feel free to share that at any time. So this is your time to ask panelists questions. For the next panel, we've set aside 30 minutes for discussion and Q&A with the audience. And then the other panels have at least 15 minutes built in. So please do submit your questions. We would like to get to those. I will move on. And today we have a new batch of speakers to speak to their experiences with the evolving grid. The first panel is a discussion led by NCEP President Kjellander on what the future of distribution level markets looks like.